Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss Back to the Future Part 2. This came out in 1989. This is 4 years after this was made. This was released 4 years after Back to the Future 1, which came out July 3rd, 1985. This film starts out literally where we left off, but the character of Jennifer was recasted. Elizabeth Shue plays Jennifer in this movie. So they had to refilm all of the ending scenes. The three of them, Marty, Jen, and Doc Brown, are all in the 2015 time machine. Go to 2015 because Marty's kid, Martin Jr., gets involved in a robbery scheme with Biff's grandson, Griff, and that alters that's the catalytic moment of what ruins Marty's family's life afterwards. He's in jail. Martin Jr.'s thrown in jail within 2 hours after his arrest. And sentenced to 15 years in prison. His daughter, Marlene, tries to break him out, winds up in prison. So Doc is insistent on getting Jennifer and Marty to the future to stop the events that are going to ruin the rest of their family's life. So it then starts out with getting to 2015. So there's flying cars, there's hoverboards, there's hover scooters, then there's also hoverboards, there's Cafe 80s. So the objective for Marty is to not run into his past self, but pretend that he's his son and just say no to Griff, so that way, the events can stop. Hoverboard chase scenes, incredible self-lacing Nike Air Mags, incredible props and replicas that we've since gotten from Nike. Pepsi Perfect was a thing for the 2015 celebration. Pepsi did a very limited release at a San Diego Comic-Con for 2015. Very limited release. All of the replicas are going for extreme amounts of money right now, and rightfully so. But the company should have just put them all on the market to then make a shit ton more money. I don't understand. Whatever. So as the story progresses, Marty in 2015 sees this sports almanac from 1950 to 2000. So it's 50 years worth of sports history. And he's like, well, what if I buy it and I bet on it and make some money, to make sure I'm rich and good for, the future when we go back to 1985. So old Biff, Griff's grandfather Biff, hears this in the midst of figuring out why he saw a flying DeLorean in 85 and then why he's seeing a flying DeLorean in 2015. He's putting it all together. Doc Brown and Marty McFly are the masterminds behind it. So he steals the almanac, steals the time machine, brings the book back to his younger Biff, and then once Doc and Marty figure this out, they then have to go back to November 12th, 1955, which was the night of the Under the Sea dance, where George and Lorraine have to share their first kiss, which then keeps the catalyst going for that family. But then also, in some other coincidence or cosmic bringings of together, November 12th, 1955 is that the definitive point in the timeline that everything is stemming off of. So older Biff brings younger Biff the almanac, November 12th, 1955. And so Marty and Doc are now on a quest to get the book back to then fix the altered timeline, which older Biff created by giving younger Biff the almanac. It's a lot of back and forth, but it's the only way to go back to the present's future is to fix the past to then get to the present, the normal present. It's explained on a chalkboard with lines, and Doc Brown does his magic, which is science. Makes a lot of sense in the movie, but when you think about it, it's interesting. Linear time. Time is linear in a perceivable sense, but it's not linear outside of the perceivable sense. It's very interesting. So in this particular situation, time is linear. And so we get back to 55. We have our behind the scenes of within the first movie of what happens behind the scenes. Very cool seeing alternate angles of the same scene. I love it. Absolutely love it. And so the book is destroyed, but in the process of this, Doc Brown is in the flying DeLorean, and he gets struck by lightning and gets sent to 1885. A telegrammer, I don't know the term, gives Marty a letter that's been in the Western Union for 70 years. Doc Brown is explaining that he's been in 1885 Hill Valley, and that he knew that Marty would be in this place at this time with that exact location. So he has to find himself to then get older Doc Brown, who's really future Doc Brown, who's really in the past, 1885. Everything's ending in a 5 to save him. So Back to the Future 2 and 3 was filmed at the same time. So we have a trailer of the third film, Back to the Future Part 3, at the very end of this film, which was very smart. You didn't really have that back then. So it was very, very cool. So it's now a matter of seeing Doc Brown after the events of getting the DeLorean back to 1985. Marty just runs around the corner after the DeLorean, disappears into the movie theater, tells Doc Brown that he is in 1885 and he has to go help him, and that's the beginning of the third film, which we'll get into. So what my favorite scene in this entire film is the tunnel scene, and I'll explain why. So Biff is in his 1946 Ford, and Marty, 1985 Marty. So we have 1955 Biff in his 1946 Ford. We have 1985 Marty with his 2015 hoverboard, which the girl gave him. She said, "Keep it. I have a pit bull. I don't need this one." So he has the 2015 hoverboard as the 1985 person on the 2015 hoverboard, chasing against the 1955 Biff. So what I love about it is that it's the 3 different time periods mixed into one. So you have 1955 Biff chasing 1985 Marty on a 2015 hoverboard. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. It's just so cool having all that mixed together. So then going into the third film, we're in 1885. So it's a matter of, how does the DeLorean stay in 1885? How does Marty get to 1885? How does he get Doc Brown and himself back to 1985 to make sure that Jennifer is okay on her porch? I just love it. Absolutely love it. I really want a prop replica of the hoverboard. I have many Lego minifigures of Marty, the hoverboard, and Doc Brown himself, which are pretty awesome. A new Lego set is coming very, very soon. April 1st, I believe. I'm currently recording this on March 20th. And yeah, I love this series, man. It's just so cool. I don't watch it that often because I get so worked up about the props that I'm like, I need the props. But I'm not spending thousands of dollars for replicas of the props. Who has 30 grand for a pair of Nike Air Max? Some people do. I'm not one of those people yet. But yeah, we'll see. See what happens next. We'll see what happens on the next viewing of Back to the Future Part 3. What are my thoughts and opinions, as incredible as it is? It's very neat having different decades and different time periods represented with clothes, music, fashion, speech. It's very neat watching the change between 2015, 2080, fictitious 2015, because real 2015 happened already. We're done with that. But this movie was released in 1989, so they didn't know what 2015 was. A thing that I noticed a lot with the 2015 scenes though is that a lot of picture-in-picture, and the TVs were just screens on walls. That's what we do. So it was pretty neat. Thing that I noticed the most about the change though is that people in the 80s thought we'd have flying cars by that time period, right? To get from easier travel to the bank and easier travel to the grocery store or whatever. We have the internet now. The internet took place instead of flying cars because you could just go to the bank on your phone. You literally just go check your balance on your phone with the internet. You can literally order groceries and have it delivered on your phone via the internet. So the need for flying cars transferred into the internet, which is an interesting take on it. So it's a matter of, what's 30 years from 2015 going to look like? What is 2045 going to look like? I have no idea, to be completely honest. It might be underwater as far as the downfall of this planet has been going for some time. But we'll see. We'll see. I hope we are all alive and well and raring to go for an anniversary reunion of Back to the Future for 2045, and to dive into what happens next within the society as we know it, as well as pop culture as we know it. On to Back to the Future Part 3. Mucho mahalo.